Welcome to the Mastermind Club, your ultimate gateway into the world of Bitcoin mining. Whether you're just starting out or looking to scale your operations, our vibrant community of like-minded enthusiasts is here to support you every step of the way. Join us for weekly sessions led by industry pros, where you'll exchange ideas, brainstorm strategies, and stay motivated on your mining journey. From heat management to site optimization, our monthly deep dives cover the technical know-how you need to succeed. And with access to our entire back catalog, you'll never miss a beat. But that's not all. Our members enjoy exclusive one-on-one sessions with veteran miners, plus direct access to special pre-sales and insider opportunities at Bitcoin Mining World. Ready to take your mining to the next level? Join the Mastermind Club today and secure your spot in the future of Bitcoin mining. Visit bitcoinminingworld.com or scan the QR code now. And now back to the show.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jon Taylor, and we are doing a mastermind today on the zero factor and how we can educate the masses so that we can get widespread adoption of Bitcoin. We talk about, how can we add another zero to the value of Bitcoin? And we believe that it comes through education, how we can communicate with the rest of the 95% of the world that doesn't know what Bitcoin is, much less Bitcoin mining, which is a complicated topic. So we have two amazing experts on education and Bitcoin. They're so knowledgeable on, the ethos of Bitcoin and of Bitcoin mining. They're going to really give us some great insight on how we can, better move this cause forward. But before we get there, I want to talk about something really important. Bitcoin mining world is joining the mafia, the mining mafia at Fort Lauderdale, Florida, March 26th. It's Wednesday night at 6 p.m. We're going to have a party, a soiree, a get together like no other. It's going to be from 6 to 9 p.m. We're going to have tacos. We're going to have free drinks. We're going to have a DJ jamming some tunes. It's going to be fun. Better yet, it's right across the street from the convention at the Mining Disrupt event. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Great way to connect with other Bitcoin miners. Scan the QR code. You know what to do. You've used one of these before. They're pretty easy. You're going to love it. So join us at the Mining Mafia meetup. Join the mafia with us, and together we can rule the world. So let's talk about products. We got a whole bunch of M30s. We want to sell them. We want you to buy them. They're fully tested. We got videos, serial numbers, and 2% free in lieu of a warranty. Connect with us. Let's talk to Yannick. Let's get some deals going. Let's sell some M30s. And if you're like, what's miners? I don't like those. I'd rather ant mine something. We got you covered. We got S19K Pro 120Ts in the USA, $1260 per unit. They're brand new and in a box. They got a warranty until December. So when Christmas comes, the warranty's over and you're making money on S19s. So please connect with us. Talk with Scott, talk with Yannick, talk with me. Bring your friend, bring your money, bring your friend's money, buy some miners. We're going to have some fun. So let's get into it. What is the zero factor? The zero factor, like I said, it's educating, connecting with the community, connecting with the audience that is out there, because you all do Bitcoin. Like everybody on this call right now, everybody watching, you're in the Bitcoin world, and people say, well, what do? You say, well, I do Bitcoin. And they're like, what is that? I just don't get it. Exactly. That's why Bitcoin is only worth $100,000 instead of $1 million. When you start talking to more people and they say, oh, I get it. It's a great investment strategy. And I understand like the foundation of the meaning of wealth building through Bitcoin. That's when that other zero happens. So we have two guests today. Our first, there's not a first and a second. They're just first and second on my list of my sheet of things I'm going to read, but they're both equal. So one guest is Frederick Barber, and he's the founder of coolcryptoconvo.com and an analyst in the Dargent Group. He is a sought-after speaker and on digital assets and blockchain tech. So he participated in a 43-city tour in the 2022 International Mining Conference. He's a 256 OG, an early adopter of the Bitcoin. And he holds a certification in blockchain economics from Wharton and DeFi from the University of Nicosia. Previously, he had a 20-year career as a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army, and where he achieved significant logistics and pioneered solar energy initiatives. But before I bring him on stage, I'm going to introduce someone else. His name's Jack Fife. He's an MC, a speaker, an all-around funny guy. And he's from Bitfire Adventures, and he's the creative director at that company, and a bespoke media and production agency dedicated to connecting people, knowledge, and ideas through innovative solutions. Bitfire focuses on live event services and startup development to create unique experiences that inspire, engage audiences nationwide. And we're going to grab this mouse and bring them both up, and look at that. We're here. Fred, how we doing?
Doing fantastic. How you doing, man?
Could be better unless I was twins, and then I'd be twice as good. Jack, how are you doing?
Good morning, guys. I'm fantastic. a nice, crisp Florida Friday morning down here in Naples, where I'm hanging out today.
And so by crisp, what do you mean? Is it 32 degrees?
No, I know for us it was like 52 degrees this morning, and then by the time the sun came up, it got to about 55. I think it's just over 60 now. That's nice and brisk. That's good walking weather, getting out.
Good walking weather. Good walking weather. So, we're going to talk about education and, how we can educate the masses. And one of the biggest challenges is that Bitcoin is so complicated. So why is it important to educate people on the fundamental principles of Bitcoin? And I'll start with you, Fred.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. So it's important to educate folks on the fundamentals of Bitcoin simply because in order to get them to make the switch, they have to know why, right? You literally need to understand what is the use case. If grandma stuffed $100 in her mattress 30 years ago, and her intent was to buy, a buggy load of groceries, it's not going to work right now, right? Bitcoin helps solve that problem. So first of all, with education, you really do have to understand why, because if people don't see a benefit naturally, we want to do things that are beneficial to us. So if I can show you that this new digital form of currency is better than what I'm using now, I'm more likely to switch over. And then I get into all of the different things that I have to do to move to this better product. And so I'd simply say that in terms of why you want to explain it, it's almost self-evident that I'm not switching to something that I don't think is better than what I already have. Now, there's some other things that come along with that, and I'm sure we'll get into that. Faster, better, more secure, all those sorts of things. But to the average person on the street, if you can show them that, 10 years from now, the $10 in my pocket is only going to buy half of what it buys today. But if I'm holding on to Bitcoin, it'll buy 3 times what it can buy today. Then I'm more likely to make the switch. And that just boils down to knowing, right? Baseline education. Yeah.
That's a great answer, and I want to expand on that in just a moment. But first, I want to hear Jack. Same question. What do you think? How can we get that widespread adoption for Bitcoin? Where do you think we can improve or do better?
Oh wow, that's a big question. But I think that there's a good opportunity really around the world. And it's easy to say, in sort of hyperbolic terms, but what I find is that things end up being more effective when I'm closer to home or closer to communities that we're connected to. And so I guess we're kind of starting off with the premise, if I'm reading between the lines, right, that the adoption and the expansion of knowledge about this topic is going to be beneficial for everyone. Right? Is that kind of like a given thing that we're sort of starting with, if I may?
Yeah. So I guess to follow up on that, is the path through educating and getting to widespread adoption, is it telling people that Bitcoin is a better source of wealth building,
right,
or is it that the current currency situation's deflating and the dollar doesn't get you anymore?
Right. I think, if I may, let me just step back up one step. And my background tends to be more like on the psychology or the kind of the theory of training and educating and coaching and whatnot. And I'm always hung up on this concept of teaching people how to think about, well, the world and their interaction with it versus what to think specifically about it. And of course, everybody, comes out on different places on that curve. You can imagine just this huge array of where people are at, whether they are open to the kind of that receiving knowledge in that way where they can learn how to think about a thing. And then, of course, we could apply that, say, to Bitcoin and how that applies to the world. Or if they've just been, maybe they're more, they're on the other side of that curve and they just need to be told what to think at first to kind of get them going, to create some traction, to then kind of develop into the higher levels where I can discern how to think about this and that. So I guess my point is like, I'm always looking at it from that way. You know, it's when I started, I can just speak from my personal journey. Like, I needed to be told what to think about a few things until I kind of got my footing and understood what was the purpose of this thing existing, you know, here in the world, and how did it compare and contrast with my understanding of the rest of the world. And you know, as soon as I say that, I realize like some people are really down with that and ready to kind of take a good look and maybe take a few steps back and maybe reconsider the things that they've been taught to think, what to think along the journey. And I have gotten to the point where they're willing to be open and ready to examine how to re-examine those things, and then be able to kind of make steps forward with their lives, and of course whether or not they can utilize these types of tools. And for us, I mean, I'm kind of biased, I guess, now where my education's at, and maybe you, Fred, too, and John, I know you are. We've learned so much about it and what the potential is. It's downright exciting, and almost you can get kind of giddy about you know, the potential and the future and where things can go. But then you realize like, well, man, not everybody's on board, or not everybody's really ready to jump in. And so meeting kind of people where they're at and kind of helping them understand that there's a map for this whole thing to help them figure out where to go and what to do with it, and to realize that the map is really just a description so that they can actually go out and then interact in the true territory, which is the real world, and then how this tool would apply to it. How's that?
That's great. So, you know, you touched on a lot of things there, and I think that's great. When I was thinking of what you're talking about, I'm thinking about investing, you know, and because Bitcoin's two different things. There's the idea of Bitcoin, the ideology of it, of decentralizing, changing the world, that kind of thing. And then there's also investing. And I think the widespread adoption happens from investing. So how can we better educate people to consider investing into Bitcoin and understanding the store value of it and the inflation hedge? You know, that really requires, you know, economic literacy. Is that too difficult of a path, or is there a different way?
Wow. Well, I'll just say for me, I know when you say the word investing, I think that that can be kind of gosh, I was going to say triggering, but I'm really not fond of that concept. So some people are really kind of open to it and understand that investment happens through all kinds of, you know, forms, whether it's their time or their treasure, or whatever else they got to invest in their lives and stuff. But I agree, like the ability to convert your energy and the usefulness or the utility that you bring to the world and convert it into this mechanism that can be a store of value tends to be how I look at it. It's like, say, from an asset point of view, then can you make the jump really easily and say like, well, this is worth investing in, or investing your time in, or your energy into, in order to convert your energy into something that will have the protection and, of course, the security, if you will, that Bitcoin provides. Is that a way to say that?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Fred, what do you think when we're talking about, you know, the investing? I think Jack brought up a lot of great points. You know, how can we bridge that gap?
So bridging the gap in terms of investing, I look at it in several different ways. So the first way you can look at it is the level of adoption, both inside the Bitcoin ecosystem and then the larger investment opportunity. So there are roughly 8 billion people on Earth. About 2 or 3% own Bitcoin right now at this point, and 100% of all the mined Bitcoin that's initially has been mined is owned by that small group of people. Okay, and I think you've heard me talk about Operation Proliferation. because Bitcoin is limited in nature, the only way for the other 98% of the planet to get it is for us that own it already to spread it. And there's got to be a way to do that. Now, with that, let me go back to the human side of this thing, right? When he talks about how to think instead of what to think. What percentage of Americans own all the stock market? It's like 80% of the stock market is owned by the top 2 or 3% of the people on the planet. Is that right or wrong? Because are you guys following me?
Yeah.
We're having a discussion, right? Okay,
Yeah.
great. So having said that, Bitcoin in its white paper, and I'm not a purist, right? You know that. I'm maxi-ish, not maximalist. If the average American can't handle, right, an emergency that's a couple $1,000s, then in their minds, I remember talking about this maybe like 2011, 2012. I was telling the guys, hey, the average person is worried about putting food on the table, Pampers on their baby's bottom, and a roof over their head, kind of a deal. So if you want Bitcoin to proliferate, there are two groups that you have to address. One, all of us that hold it, right? And then two, the ones that don't hold it. And there's an equilibrium-based economics. I'm going to challenge Keynesian stuff. I'm going to challenge capitalism here within the next year. And the point is, you have to achieve some level of equilibrium for it to proliferate, because we've already said, hey, it's scarce. There isn't a whole lot of it. And miners only get paid in Satoshis. And in 2034, 99% of all Bitcoin will have been mined. And the use case will be, right, if you and I got the numbers now, the use case will be that, hey, I can use this to buy those Pampers. I can use this to buy food. But right now it is seen by those of us that own a little wad of Satoshis and have them tucked away as a store of value, right? And an investment. A lot of the world doesn't see it that way. I was in Nigeria about a month ago, Nigeria and Kenya, just before I went to Davos, was it Switzerland? And the people there, they see it as a way not for their money to inflate, because their inflation is off the charts. So literally half the people in the conference that were speaking were saying, look, we're trying to get our money into Bitcoin immediately so we don't lose value and we can still buy a loaf of bread with a few sats that we get for what we put in. So, you know, for what it's worth, how we view things and our perception will matter. I'm coming from a place probably of having been in it a long time, and I'm in a different position here in America than someone might be across the world. So, you know, you got to look at it from all these different vantage points to maximize your opportunity, because we aren't the only ones buying Bitcoin. Yeah.
So I'm going to give you a little pushback on that concept. So you said that in 2034, you know, we'll be able to buy diapers with Bitcoin. What if we
No. I said about in 2034, 99% of all the Bitcoin will be mined, right? Give or take. And that will be owned, 100% of it is owned by the people who have it in their hand. And so we got to get it out to the rest of the world. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I interrupted.
So it sounded like you were saying that Bitcoin will actually be like a form of currency that we could transact with in the future.
Well, so that depends, right? So I believe in digital Darwinism, right? The environment that you're in right now, that we're in right now, is different from the environment we were in 2011. Man, we were talking about whether or not to create a symbol for it so people can wrap their heads around the zeros and ones and acknowledge it as a type of currency. And so a lot of people feel, and you're right, you know, it's okay to push back. A lot of people feel Bitcoin is perfect. And I tell them immediately, we have Bitcoin improvement proposals to advance it, because we knew in the beginning that it needs to evolve to become and reach its full potential. So go ahead, I'm gonna be quiet and let you run with it.
Well, I like the idea. So what I was thinking is, you know, Bitcoin doesn't have to be a currency. It can be just a store of wealth. We don't buy diapers with gold, and we don't buy like with any type of wealth thing. And we actually don't really. Most people don't even own gold. Most people own the concept of gold. And so, what do you think, Jack? I mean, is it going to be a currency or just a store of wealth in the future, like gold? Go ahead, Fred. You had something to put in there.
Okay. All right. So see, I shouldn't be saying this. I'm gonna get in trouble because it's in the book. But so let's examine mathematically what we just said. Bitcoin is a store of value, right? In order for Bitcoin to remain decentralized, miners have to continue to operate. Somebody's got to come in and run a miner. Does everybody agree with that concept? Are we on the same sheet of music? Yes or no?
Yes. Yep. Yes.
Okay, great. If miners are running, then you have to pay for the electricity, the labor, et cetera, for Bitcoin to continue to function. Now, in order for a miner to cover his or her or maintain his or her economic incentive to mine, they got to be receiving enough Satoshis at whatever the rate Satoshis are selling for to pay for that labor. So it's not like gold just in the concept is sitting still. I know Michael Saylor and a lot of the experts say this, but I'm putting you on game, man. Trust me right now. I've been in it a while. I've been studying it. Let's just say it costs $10 million a month to run all the miners in the world, right? And you fast forward, you double Bitcoin's time frame to 4 more halvings from now, and the halving rate is 0.09 or whatever it's going to be, right? If the amount for the block reward doesn't pay enough for everybody to win a block every now and then and pay for their mining, then the mining network atrophies and begins to re-centralize. And so there's a minimum remember I talked about minimum velocity protocols? Bitcoin is not like fiat. There's no one in the background that's going to be able to make some more of it. So a percentage of it always has to be circulating. And as it gains value, when you win a block, 50 years from now, 30 years from now, whatever it is, price appreciation, in addition to the number of Satoshis in the system, will keep the system running. Hopefully that makes sense to y'all.
It does.
I know I just put you on game. So I promise you, sit down and do the numbers. Go to the extreme. Let's go to 2141. We won't be alive. And understand this. Bitcoin's mining algorithm is logarithmic. That's why the 99% of it will be gone within the first 20 years, right? Everyone talks about 2141. But the truth of the matter is, when you get down to those, it'll take like 50, 60, 70 years to mine the last singular Bitcoin. When you get to that point, it is in every miner's and wallet maker's best interest in the industry, trust me, to help with this operation proliferation and Bitcoin velocity protocols so that a percentage of Satoshis are always flowing. Because the day that a block reward is 0.009 or whatever, and you win a block, even if it's worth $1 million, you're making less than what you're making right now because the fraction is so small. So if someone's holding it, that's great, right? Say I'm holding 300,000 Bitcoin. It's fantastic. I'm the United States of America. The issue is, how do I pay for the electricity? It's Gresham's law at its best. Either Bitcoin circulates or you have to print a portion of the existing currency to pay for the electricity and the labor that you're using to maintain the security of the system. And then that puts it squarely back. It's almost like it's a loop. So to break that loop, Bitcoin must evolve. And that was the butterfly concept that I was talking to you about in Brain of it about 6-7 months ago. Go ahead, Jack. Shut me down, baby. What you got?
Well, in the words of Jack Sparrow, but why is the rum gone?
That part.
That's me being snarky because, Fred, you're putting on like a 400 level class, man. Your knowledge, you're so far out there, like graduate seminars only need apply, of course, for your clinic, right? I think, if I may, like we were talking about, how do we educate people to kind of be open and receptive to it and kind of work on the adoption? Are you saying that in kind of what you're saying, the gist of it is that it has to incorporate what? The store of value bit and then the currency thing also, until people get enough going on in there to understand about how the algorithm counts down and how the halving works and on the whole thing. Is that how you would approach people with that level of talk?
So it's even more than that, Jack. Like Operation Proliferation, the first phase of Operation Proliferation is about mobilizing anyone who owns a singular Satoshi to start teaching people, right? So that first protocol, you can look it up. It's inside the archives with the mining mafia and all that. The first piece is, let's say everybody's wallet's got to spend 3.5% of that wallet every 6 months. First of all, if you're a treasurer, ledger, or mining, selling operation, you're going to kill it. But what that does is, if say I hold 100 Bitcoin, right, and I got to sell 3.5, I got to find somebody else and I give them 3.5, right? 3.5%, but I'm buying something with it, land. The focus, wealth, no matter what currency you're talking about, doesn't matter if it's Bitcoin or the dollar, is about improving your life, the life of your family, your friends, etc., your experiences while you're here on this planet. You can't buy more time. You can buy some medical assistance, but rock with me for a second. When you do that, each time the Bitcoin hops to a new wallet, everybody in the system is looking to convert the other 95% of the planet, right, into the Bitcoin system. Now, here's the part that's really, are y'all still there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hello? Okay. Here's the part that hits you over the head.
You're monologuing. Is that good or bad? You gotta tell me. I'm just messing with you.
The thing that's important is, by doing that, you have exponential growth in the number of the people in the network, because everyone has to spend a very small amount. There's no one I know that spends less than 3.5% of their income, unless you're like Elon Musk or somebody. The rest of us are spreading it. Well, if you have 8 billion people that are holding Bitcoin and they got to make 2 transactions a year, do the math backwards and go back to the record Bitcoin date, and you're going to have several million times that number of transactions in the Bitcoin network. You begin to literally crush the current economic systems and move to a Bitcoin type of, what they call it, hyper Bitcoinization. Now, here's the thing. You're going to create some problems and you're going to solve some problems. I promise you that. The problem you're going to create is that Bitcoin cannot handle that number of transactions. The problem that you're going to solve is, if my 100 Bitcoin went into that system and I complete this design, at the end, I will have roughly half of my Bitcoin left. But there will be something like 1 million times the number of people in the network. So it's deflation at its best. So and it's counterintuitive. We think if you have more something, you're richer. But with Bitcoin, the more people you stuff into the system, right, it makes what you have in your wallet, the Satoshi in your wallet, more valuable. But right now, it's like the opposite. If I'm an ETF, if I'm an expert, I see experts do it every day. They cheer on the ETFs, they cheer on China, Washington, whatever. They got 300 Bitcoin, the war is starting. You have to remember, this isn't the US dollar. You can't make some more of it. So for every Bitcoin that gets hoarded away and cannot circulate within the system, right? That's a Bitcoin that cannot, or a Satoshi that cannot be paid for a miner for securing the network. Gold will do its thing.
I like it.
Bitcoin needs energy. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
Jack,
Let's jump on.
Look at Jack.
Yeah, I like it. Let's get Jack's response to that. And Alfredo's talked about, we need to create a marketplace in the Lightning Network. You get people using Bitcoin as money to buy food and stuff, and that kind of supports the challenge that I brought up. Do you think that is the solution in the future, or do you think it is more a store of wealth?
Well, I guess you're right. In the future, it'll become more of a just a utility. I guess in an experiment that we've never really run through before. Like you said earlier, I can't buy my bread with my bars of gold. But at some point, Bitcoin will be functional enough to be just handled like a currency, and so then it'll make more sense whether it's on the Lightning Network or even somebody else just said something about that, incorporating like the tap to pay kind of system with a Lightning terminals and places will get people to see it, that I could take my card and transact like it. I guess that'll be the way of the future, right? Just to make it more useful. And just like you say, Fred, it'll keep it in motion, as people will hoard less of it, I guess. I'm not sure
Exactly. So hoarding is a good term for that. In my book, man, I got about, and it doesn't even have a name yet, I got about 110 new terms. Protocol pooling is one of them. And it's not necessarily just a protocol. It's the hoarding of the asset that we use, that we trade. Now, here's the thing to consider. Part of the protocol pool is at the L2 level, all right? L2 for everybody in the audience is like, if you have Google and you have an app on Google, it's that app, right? Here's the thing about the Lightning Network. I love the concept of the Lightning Network, right? But if I did 1 million transactions on the Lightning Network, how many of those transactions does does a Bitcoin miner on the L1 network get paid?
I do not know. What is the answer?
I don't know.
The last one, when they close it out. So you can do 1 million transactions, right? But the person that's running the Lightning Network, when it's hopping from phone to phone, they're getting paid, right? But what I need somebody with an Antminer, an ASIC, and all that. I need them dudes to get paid, because they're the ones that are securing the network. This is why Bitcoin Velocity Protocol 1 goes to number 2, and I won't go into that, but I promise you that Bitcoin can do everything and be everything we want it to be, but we still have some evolution to take care of. It has to morph some more, and the narrative about perfection, it's way better than fiat. There's no doubt about that, right? But we're on a clock, because the more of it that gets hoarded and put into that protocol pools, one of the types of protocol pools is that it's gonna dictate who can manipulate it in the future. Because remember, you earn your revenues 2 ways, right? Block subsidies and transactions, correct? Is that right, John?
Yep.
Okay, so in 2034-ish, and really I say 2032, that's 2 halvings from now, right? That'll be the last time you earn a whole Bitcoin every 10 minutes. Every miner in the world is competing for that less than 1 Bitcoin. And oh, by the way, the people that are buying it are printing old fiat money, Gresham's law, right? And hoarding it. In order to set it free, the protocol itself needs to have a net mechanism built in to maintain that decentralization. So now, if I print $1 billion and buy $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, I know I got to spend a portion of it. And I got some things set in there so it doesn't keep coming back to the same folks. And now it proliferates out to the whole world, and we're set free for real. I promise you that. I promise. But it's called equilibrium-based economics, and it will take you to the promised land. Bitcoin can get it done. What Satoshi gave us was a percentage of the solution. What I will give you is a percentage of the solution, but then there'll be more than half of the highway left to get to where mankind needs to be to really make it a fair shake when it comes to income and the money. Yeah, I bet you my bottom Satoshi that I can improve on the Bitcoin network, and it will happen. I just need someone to kind of like partner with me, because there are things that I don't know, right? There are things that I don't know, and there are things that you know. If we team together, we can knock this out.
So my next question, Jack, is kind of related to that. Why is education important in fostering innovation in the Bitcoin ecosystem? So, we have knowledge of Bitcoin's technology, sparks new ideas and applications, and that education inspires developers and entrepreneurs to innovate and grow the ecosystem. But we're being pushed. There's a lot of pushback that Bitcoin's not the hot thing. AI and robotics are. So how can we compete with that? And where do we fit in? What does the future look like?
Oh, wow. Well, gee, first thing came to mind, probably a reckless thing to say, is a little bit of the FOMO kind of thing. The idea of the future being a particular way, a lot of the way that Fred has described it, and I think that we're all kind of hopeful for. And I guess there's a particular intellectual appeal that might tap on the FOMO kind of emotionality or nerve that says that it's worth investing some of your time, to understand and learn about this, become educated about it, because it will be the vehicle, the utility, our currency, the whole thing of a particular future. But how do you actually kind of make that happen? I guess in the first place, which was part of the general discussion. Boy, I don't know. Although I could say that I know that once I became curious about it, getting involved in different opportunities and going to different, whether it's a meetup or going to a conference and learning something, and then suddenly hanging out and talking to the people that are actually got the experience and are willing to kind of share about it. To me, that became the big education, at least for the arc of my life and ongoing. And so I guess helping create those opportunities kind of more and more, or making them easier, the barrier to entry there, and feeling kind of welcome would be probably a key to that.
I agree. I'm wondering if Bitcoin needs a facelift, a rebranding. Does it not look cool enough? Like it sounds very simple and basic, but look, people buy things because they see it on the shelf. They see it. Someone says, "Hey, you should buy Bitcoin," and Bitcoin's $107,000 today, and so they go, "Okay, I'm going to buy it." They don't really care about all the things that we're talking about for the last 38 minutes. They're like, "Yeah, I don't really give a shit about that. I just want to make money." And it looks, so would a rebranding of Bitcoin be a good thing? And rebranding would be not only just a logo and a look of what Bitcoin is, but like how we talk about it. And the example is if you watch the news, the two political parties, they brand their brand by providing talking points and what you should be talking about, so that all the different channels, they all say the exact same thing using the exact same words. It's a way of Coke does it, Nike does it, Republicans do it. It's everywhere. Bitcoin, because it is decentralized, doesn't have that branding committee, or they don't have like a marketing committee. Would that be something that would be useful? What do you think about
that? Well, no, because I know that since it doesn't have a marketing department and a branding arm, I guess it comes down to the way that each of us kind of share the experience with our friends. For instance, I like what Adina just said over there about over intellectualizing how to spread the Bitcoin. Yeah, I can feel the tendency at times to get way out in the weeds and all the super details and whatnot, and to kind of maybe miss the real simple stuff about why this is useful in my life and why you should consider giving some time to this. And then some people, I have a little bit of an edge personally. I'm just going to share, because there's some people that are just not going to be open to it at all. And then at what point do you say, well, fine, knock yourself out, do whatever you're doing over there, and we'll be over here taking care of the real business of the world. And sometimes some people would rather be a capo than a full participant, in a revolution, which is kind of how I like to look at it. And if you're not clear with capo, just look it right up for historical reference. But I like that, Adina. Intellectualizing it is definitely a big trap of the group. And I know that when we get to the conferences, some of that stuff is so deep and weedy. It's cool. Is that the brand that we want to feel out there in the world, John? when we say it needs like the rebranding? Do I want to rely on what? Michael Saylor to deliver a eulogy every day, next to the whatever, from Rome, like that one guy does, and somehow lead the world with a singular message? Is that the way to do it?
So that's a great point, and I think what Adina hit on is kind of where I've been going with this zero factor concept. Is the widespread adoption happens when it's easy. Computers were great. Computers became huge when the iPad came out because they said Apple computers, they focused on one thing. They didn't make the iPad, the iPhone, the computer, the laptop, and the iMac all at the same time. They made one thing. They made the iPad, and they made the interface of the iPad very simple. And that's how they got widespread adoption of that entire thing. The smartphone came out after. And so the smartphone is like a second generation of it. And that changed the way that phones are used. We take it for granted because it's how everything is right now. But in the old days, there used to be buttons and a whole keyboard. And the coolest thing was that Palm Pilot. All of us in this room had it. We had one of those. But it became way better when it became colorful little buttons that you could see what it is. And that's what my idea is for Bitcoin. How can we make it that simple?
Well, hey, John, one thing that you said about rebranding, John, I think that may have some validity, right? In the early days, the Satoshis were grouped into groups of 100 million, right, to make one Bitcoin. Remember, you don't program a Bitcoin, you program a Satoshi. I think part of this, the Bitcoin proliferating, the education and all that type of thing is just getting back to the basics. I believe that part of the solution, in my mind's eye, at some point, if the exchanges were to list Bitcoin as whole Bitcoins, as we know them today, 100 million a pop, but list them as Satoshis as well. So there isn't kind of like a price discrimination going on, price bias. I think that can help, because when people hear you can buy one Bitcoin for $100,000, they don't think in fractional terms like someone who's been educated. And I think it keeps a lot of people away from the space and clicking on that button to learn more. What are your thoughts?
Wow.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Jack?
Oh, I'm not sure I followed it enough. I'm sorry, Fred. I was obsessing over Alfredo giving us tips about other layers and Lightning. I'm just going to redirect back since I don't have an answer for that, Fred, at the moment. John, you were talking about, okay, how about this? How about the concept of like the iPod's actually the thing that came first before the tablet and before the phone? And what did they really sell about it? It wasn't that it was a little box that had, I don't know, cute buttons and the swirly deal on it and all the thing. It was this sudden, they recontextualized what the device did for you. And what did it do? It provided like thousands of songs at your fingertips, in the palm of your hand, in your pocket, ready to go anywhere at all times. So that's kind of how I think of where Bitcoin like could go, instead of in addition to all the great knowledge and details that go behind it to help us understand it, there's a little bit of that recontextualization that says what does it mean? Like, for instance, the sovereignty concept is very familiar amongst certain Bitcoin circles, right? Well, how do you get from talking about the coin and the halving and all the stuff and the velocity, like Fred's talking about, to the point where I understand what sovereignty suddenly looks like in my life? Is there a way for Bitcoin to really make it there, or are we still too far out on that curve to make the jump?
So I'm going to put a little thought into that. So when you talk to people about the debasing of currency, or why they printed all that money to make up for the overnight notes that they bought during COVID, so that we didn't go into a recession, and how they manipulated the currency, and how that is the basis for the way that all civilizations fail. The first 5 chapters of the Bitcoin standard. When you tell people about that, when I tell people about that, I hear that's scary. I don't really want to know about that. I don't want to know about our currency
Yeah.
being debased and the end of the civilization as we know it. So, what has been your experience in that, Fred? To when you talk to people about, you know, that whole debasing of the currency and the end of civilization.
Okay, so I don't know about the end of civilization, but I do show them a picture of Germany after the World War with dude with the wheelbarrow of money. I do tell them that the greenback wasn't the first form of currency here in North America. I tell them about the Continental, right? George Washington supposedly said that at one point a wagon full of Continentals, which was the money at the time, couldn't buy a wagon full of provisions, which was food at the time. You know what I mean? And so if you can show, first of all, I think we can make it fun, right? Make this whole process fun where people are learning the truth without kind of an adversarial vibe. I get intense about it because it must be the soldier in me. But a lot of times the way I break the ice when I tell people, hey, you know, Bitcoin wasn't the first cryptocurrency used proof of work. It just wasn't. Look in the white paper on the fourth page or third paragraph or vice versa. I can't remember which one it is. And Satoshi himself says that he uses what, hash cash, or a form of proof of work that's using hash cash. So I always joke and tell people who are anti everything that Bitcoin has aunties and uncles. You know what I mean? And if you can name X, I give you a couple sats. My point being on the tail end of that, it's just that I think if you can integrate fun into it somehow, because remember, I'll bet 10 to 1 everybody on here is over the age of 35, give or take, right? But the young people are the ones that are going to be probably be the quickest to adopt. All of us are technological immigrants. They're natives. My sons both own a few sets already, you know, nothing big, but just enough. I'm teaching them how it works because it's going to be the future. So making the system fun, getting those factoids together. When you go to a conference, right? Man, I went to the conference in Nairobi. I think it was the Bitcoin Africa conference. And after every 2 or 3 sets, they would do something fun. It would be like a crossword puzzle. Everybody in the audience did it. Then they'd have a dance contest or whatever. And so instead of being consumed with, 90 minutes of jargon, because I know I can really get into the weeds, man. I can take you there, right? I would rather learn something that's kind of fun, and I'm more willing to open my wallet to do it because spending a lot of time is emotional, even for
Let's
investors,
put on a game
unfortunately.
show. Fred, why don't we
There you go.
create like a game show? Like
There we go.
The Prize is Right or
There
something,
we
or
go.
one of those things we could have it on like every afternoon at like 4 in the day or something, get people, from all around the world to tune in, or virtually whatever, play some games, spin the wheel. Of course, I'd like it to be more like Wipeout, where you have to make it through the obstacle course and make it to the other end and survive somehow, and then you get a little sat pad on the rear end on your way out. Yay.
Yep. Bounce on balls. Speaking of fun, Mining Mafia meetup is coming up on March 26th, so be sure to join us. Hey, Jack, let's talk about what we were talking about. So we were talking about the end of the world is what we were talking about. Debasing currency and going into that conversation. That seems complicated. Yeah. What would be a different way that we could do it to make it simpler, but still get the point across? Because I think that it's an important part.
Oh my gosh! Instead of going to the end of the world stuff, yeah. Well, I would sell. I guess I would make an intellectual appeal and sort of an emotional appeal to how much better the world can operate by utilizing this technology and the revolution that it kind of represents. like I mentioned, the sovereignty concept, and not everyone's ready for that kind of a thing. But you know, a certain amount of like-minded people, and they kind of resonate with the freedom kind of vibe and the idea of like freedom money, fix the world. I think that there's more of like a hopium approach that kind of, for me, works a little bit better than the doomy end of the world stuff. Even though I have, you know, eventually you come to that point where I want to see those things and I want to understand the context of it, so that it makes the other stuff kind of work better. But I know I can't do the doom stuff too long. It's like doom scrolling like forever, right? I need the hopium. I need to see the green, pun not intended, right there, of the future.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this has been a great conversation. We have a few comments in the chat. We'd love to get some more questions. If anyone has anything to say, we would, you know, really want to make sure that we touch anything. So to kind of put a bow on this, you know, a kind of a closing statement of how we can use education. What do you think the best path forward is for us as a community and advocates or evangelists of Bitcoin and the cause to go out there and speak to the non-believers? Jack?
I think that
Fred?
okay. So I think that the first step is to the masses per se, is to have them understand that in its most simple form, Bitcoin is a better form of money. Whether you're using it as a peer-to-peer cash electronic system, or you're using it as savings, it's better than the money we have now, and it is the future. It is better to have a little now than none when the world kind of makes that transition. The second piece within the space to the masses is to the people who are already experts, and have both groups understand that as this thing evolves, what we know to be true is going to change, because the information available changes, and digital currencies, particularly Bitcoin and any other currency for that matter that's supposed to be cryptocurrency, they can evolve. The dollar in my pocket remains the same. 10 years ago, there was no SegWit, you know, there was no segregated witness, you know. So this money is not only good money, but it's going to get better over time. You know, it's like a Tesla, right? It updates every now and then, and it gets better. And, you know, if we can do that and explain to people that, hey, most folks don't even understand the monetary system that we have now. They don't know that the Fed is a group of banks that's privatized that works with
Yep.
the US government, right? They don't know those things. So there's a combination of educating the masses and then educating the people that are experts, understanding that the environment and the information will continue to flow and we grow together. So you almost have to have a continuing education type mentality when it comes to Bitcoin, because depending on where you come in, and to Jack's point, I love his point, you have to meet people where they are, depending on where they came in and where they left out, whether they were hurt or helped or whatever. That's what we have to adapt to. So in my opinion, the biggest thing is to stay at it, figure out how to get the protocol and the coin in the hands of all people or more people, and when it becomes more common, more people will join. What do they call it? Metcalfe's law. That's a real thing, man. The more people you get into the network, the more it will grow. I'll rest.
Thank you, Frederick. I appreciate it. Jack?
Well, I'll wrap it up by saying I think it's a great challenge for us in the community to help with adoption by really being the incubator of cool, of what's cool. And I don't mean like cool like the Fonz, but I mean like cool because we lead by example in our lives. We've understand low time preference concepts They become part of our being, and we sort of exude that out there. And we're fun people to be around, and intellectually challenging, and and a great community. And that's the kind of thing that I think will really kind of brighten it out and allow people to be willing to come in and take a step closer, and then get in the weeds about all the other stuff and understand the why part, or the how part, excuse me. And instead, we'll lead with the why it's cool to be a Bitcoiner, and go like that.
Love it. Why it's cool to be a Bitcoiner. That is going to be, we're going to work that one. We're going to make some promotional material on that.
All right.
I really appreciate all of your insight and your ideas and your knowledge. I mean, the two of you have so much knowledge in Bitcoin, the network, and the history of it. It's been enlightening for me. It's been enlightening for everybody who joined us today. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And, together we'll rebrand the Bitcoin, and, find new ways to reach new people and get them involved. Once people are hooked, it's becoming easier to be a Bitcoin miner, to have a node. For $1,000, you can have an Apollo 2, and you can have a node. You can be mining, micro mining. You can create heat for your house. You do all kinds of different things, and it's such an easy tool to get involved into the Bitcoin mining business. Is what we're all about. So it's never been a better time to be in the Bitcoin mining business.
I agree.
So with that, we're going to call it a day. And if you are in, we were supposed to play a Mining Mafia meetup video. Yeah, we're going to do that right now. Because if you are in Fort Lauderdale, we are joining the Mining Mafia, on March 26th, right across the street from the Brevard County Convention Center, wherever the hell that Disrupt thing is. And then we're going to have tacos. We're going to have free drinks. You can take the water taxi home so you don't have to drive after having a few free drinks. And life is good. And here's the video.
Bitcoin mining isn't just an industry. It's a movement, a network of pioneers. And this March, we're taking it underground. Join Bitcoin Mining World, Brains, ASIC Repair Parts, and ASIC Plug for an exclusive night of networking with the Twitter community, Mining Mafia for music, food, and drinks with the biggest names in the game. Meet the top players in Bitcoin mining, face-to-face, March 26th, Fort Lauderdale, right across from Mining Disrupt. Don't just mine Bitcoin, mine opportunities. RSVP now.
Don't just mine Bitcoin, mine opportunities. I love it. That's going on the Bitcoin rebranding thing. So Adina, we look forward to meeting you in person. And Jack, I think you're going to be there, right?
Yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
Fred, are you going to be in Fort Lauderdale next week?
I have to check my calendar, man. I think I have some obligations literally with my family at that time. But I'll check my calendar. It's not a big deal to go down. Half my family's from down there in Florida.
All right. Yeah, my whole family's down there too. There's one space left on the boat if anybody wants to go. We're going fishing on Tuesday morning. It looks like calm seas and a north wind. So there's one positive, one negative. Hopefully we'll catch some big fish. If not, we'll get some good Bitcoin conversations going. And until then, we'll see you next week.
All right. Have a good day, everybody.
All right.
Thanks, John. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for joining us in the Mastermind Club, your ultimate gateway into the world of Bitcoin mining. Whether you're just starting out or looking to scale your operations, our vibrant community of like-minded enthusiasts is here to support you every step of the way. Join us next week where you'll exchange ideas, brainstorm strategies, and stay motivated on your mining journey. Thank you for joining us, and tune in next week.